We've got some big news to talk about, you guys. Finally, it's felt like reports since January have been a bit weak, not too exciting. But in today's News Daily video, hopefully that excitement comes. I'll be speaking about the latest surrounding Edison Cavani and what Frank Lampard had to say on the player during his press conference earlier today. I'll be focusing on Alex Telles and the new reports coming out stating that Alex does not want to commit to a new contract at FC Porto. This is big news, you guys. And to end today's News Daily videos, I'll be speaking about the injury latest with Reece James, and to end things, I'll speak about Victor Moses and his move to Inter Milan. Before I get into anything, you guys, smash that like button, help me get over 2,000 likes, and download the OneFootball app. It's the best football companion app to have on the market, you guys. I want to get a big month, so if you guys want to help support me and support the content I do, download the OneFootball app. You'll find the link below in the description, and on that point, we get straight into the first story for today. I'm excited. We're going to talk about the latest surrounding Edison Cavani and what Lampard had to say on the player. Now, I want to get the bad news out of the way first. At this point in time, Atletico Madrid are the favourites to sign Edison Cavani. Last night, Leonardo, the Paris Saint-Germain director of football, announced that Edison Cavani put in a transfer request and he wants to leave in this window. Now, during the summer, Atletico Madrid were close to signing Edison then, but it seems like the move didn't work out, and with some of Atletico's strikers not really firing at this point in time, they need goals, they want Edison, and it's looking like Edison has committed to Atletico Madrid. But anyway, you guys, let's get back to us and let's see what Lampard had to say on the Edison Cavani reports.
Is there anything imminent then in terms of last night the PSG director Leonardo saying that Edison Cavani has asked to leave in this window? Is he someone that you are potentially looking at?
He was a great player, played against him, and I always loved his mentality and his attitude, and obviously his goal scoring record speaks for itself. I'm not absolutely aware of what the situation is, so we'll see.
His experience, would that add to the group though?
Yeah, I mean, he's an experienced player, but so are many other players out there. So, you know, I think we are young as a squad, and we know about the transition. So, yeah, the idea of bringing in experience is something I'm certainly not looking absolutely away from, because I think sometimes the younger players need a bit of help, and if that's the case, then that may help us.
Now, this is clearly saying that there is clear interest to sign Edison Cavani. So let's see what happens. But from this point on, you guys, I'm going to talk about how this deal could actually work out, what we need to do to try and sign Edison, and give you my thoughts and opinions on the story. Now, my first thought is with Atletico Madrid, and if they do sign Edison, well, Edison is going to be fighting against Diego Costa, Joao Felix, and of course Alvaro Morata. Now, of course, Atleti do like to play with two strikers up front, but come on, 4 strikers fighting for 2 spots in the team? At Paris Saint-Germain, he can get that consistent game time he wants, but if he goes to Atletico Madrid, well, it's going to be a bit of a risk to get that game time. And in that sense, I feel like we can offer Edison the best possible move and the best motives to sign for us as well. We can offer Cavani London. We can offer Cavani the money he wants. We can offer him the game time he wants. And depending on how well he potentially does if he did sign for us, well, the club love to create opportunities for the old ex-pros. So with Cavani signing for us, he's really safeguarding his future. One thing that I think Atletico Madrid may have the advantage over us may come down to the contract they offer Cavani. We know that we have a very strict policy with players over the age of 30. Cavani is around 30 to 33 years old, and with Willian right now, he's actually rejected a contract extension because he wants 2 years. Now, if the club offer Cavani 2 years or more than 2 years, well, what are the senior players going to think about that? What's Willian going to think about that? Is he going to be particularly happy? And if the club really want Willian, well, they'd have to give him the contract he wants if they're giving Cavani that very same contract. Another part of me thinks, though, that the club may be willing to sacrifice Willian in that sense. Listen, we need a top 4 finish. We are desperate to secure Champions League football. If we don't get it, it's really going to affect our summer next season, and with so many clubs being after players like Jadon Sancho, well, we can't afford to be low down in the pecking order because we can't offer the player European football. Cavani may be seen as the risk worth taking because with Willian getting older, and with us being able to sign top players in his position in the summer, Cavani's goals can really help us secure the top 4 spot we need, and if the club are thinking like that, well, I have to say I'd agree. The final reason though why Cavani really excites me is because of how it can really help Tammy Abraham. Now I think this would be the perfect scenario for Tammy to be fighting for a first team spot against one of the best strikers of the last 10 years. I mean, my God, Edison Cavani is one of the greatest strikers of the last 10 years. His movement is actually generational. I haven't seen a striker move with so much instinct. And I think that's the best way to describe Cavani. It seems like he just reacts and acts on instinct. He just knows where to be in all possible situations and times. And with Tammy Abraham being younger and having a game that's a bit similar to Cavani's, well, Cavani could really have that mentorship role that could really help Abraham and even take his game to another level. At this club, we've seen so many examples of older senior pros helping out the younger players, most famously with John Terry himself, with players like Marcel Desailly, Frank Leboeuf, and all the other great ex-legends we used to have. They really helped Terry find his game from being a tough tackling English defender, from someone that was a bit of a tough tackling English defender, to someone that had just amazing continental world class. If Cavani comes, Tammy will feel safe that his long-term future playing as a first team striker is going to be good for him because Cavani's age is against him. At 32 to 33 years old, well, he's not going to be around for too long, and if Tammy can benefit from working under Cavani's mentorship, well, who knows how good Tammy Abraham can be in the next few years. It's really funny how we're constantly going for all the old ex-world class strikers that have lost their hype right now. He joins a long list of former players in Falcao, Alexander Pato, and recently with Gonzalo Higuain. And let's not forget guys like Eto'o and Fernando Torres, and yeah, I said it, Fernando Torres. This time I feel like we'd be signing one of these strikers in the perfect time for us, and I think we're not going to get a better forward this window than Edison Cavani. Marina, Bruce Buck, Roman, anyone, please, I'm on my knees. Not literally, but figuratively, I'm on my knees. Get a deal for Edison Cavani done. Try and sign him. Bring him to Stamford Bridge. Now we move on to the second story for today, and that's in regards to the injury update on Reece James. Now we do have some very good news. It seems like Reece hasn't sustained any serious damage against Newcastle. At the time, there were fears that he may have aggravated his ankle injury, an injury that Reece would get playing in the Toulon tournament, but thank God it was only a heavy blow to the knee. Now, does this mean that Reece is going to be fit to play against Arsenal in tomorrow's game? At this time, we don't know. The wise move could be to leave Reece out, give him time to recover a bit. You know, at times this season, Lampard's really taken a lot of risks with bringing back injured players way too quickly than they needed to be back in. Look at guys like Emerson and Kante, two players that have really suffered this season, and I think recently their form hasn't been as great. And for me, it's not really a surprise due to how many small injuries they've sustained throughout the season. But a part of me also thinks that if Reece was going to play tomorrow, we're not going to know about that. It's not the first time that Lampard's gassed it by announcing that a player isn't going to be fit, to only then announce him in the lineup the very next day. And against Arsenal in a very big game as well, well, it makes sense to have that same approach to really surprise them and give them something different to think about, because Reece was very influential in the other game against Arsenal. I'm praying that Reece is going to be fit for tomorrow's game. It's crazy to think that he's already picked up 3 Man of the Match awards consecutively. You know, a guy at 20 years old playing right back. Incredible. Honestly, his performances are so exciting, you guys. We're really witnessing the start of something amazing. And at this point in time, Reece James is our most effective and best creative player, and we need his invention down that right-hand side in tomorrow's game. So hopefully Reece is going to be fit. And on that point, you guys, we do move on to the third story for today, and I'm going to speak about another fullback, and that's the latest surrounding Alex Telles and the news announcement that he does not want to commit to signing a new contract at FC Porto. Now, the big news surrounding Telles, as I've said twice already, is that he does not want to commit to signing a new contract. But what exactly does this mean? With Porto's business plan and model, what they like to do is they like to get their players to sign new contracts where they insert big release clauses, and that way they're able to get the maximum amount of money. And the reason for this is because teams in Portugal work with a lot of third-party companies when it comes to signing players. So due to these third-party companies, they all have percentages on the player. So if you're selling a player for 10 million and you're splitting that 3 or 4 ways, your profit isn't going to be as high. By Alex Telles announcing that he won't be committing to a new contract, he's basically telling Europe he does not want to stay at FC Porto anymore. If he signed that new contract, you can imagine that Porto would have put on a massive, ridiculous release clause, which they fairly could have done, because in today's market, with how expensive fullbacks are going for, we're looking at guys at Man City who are costing 50 million apiece. Well, Porto have every right to get maximum amount of money for a player they've really helped develop and take to the next level. Ebola are the Portuguese outlet to break the story, and they're suggesting that due to Telles' announcement, it seems like FC Porto are more receptive to selling the player because his contract expires in 2021. The longer it takes to sell him, well, the quicker his valuation goes down. So Porto are in a race against time in that sense. And it gets me thinking, could Porto even be willing to let the player leave in this very same window? Now, I think realistically that might not be the case, but this really is a massive statement of intent from Alex Telles. He wants to go, he wants to play in a high level for a better team, and maybe he feels coming to us could be the best move. Everyone knows that we want to sign a new left back. Everyone knows that Ben Chilwell is the #1 target to sign, but with how his performances have been showing how his actual ability really is, but it seems like we are more receptive to other left backs on the market, and Alex Telles is one of the most premium left backs on the market at this point in time, and with a release clause that's 40 million euros. 40 million euros, where the only negotiations you have to do really is spending it negotiating with the player and his agent when it comes to agreeing a fee, because when you pay that money for that sell-on clause, boom. It's easy as that, you guys. Now at this point in time, Paris Saint-Germain are the only other club really interested in actually signing Telles, but it feels like we could have that advantage, and I'm going to show you guys some quotes coming from Alex Telles' agent, Fernando Otto, and as he himself said to Goal.com a few years ago, I believe that maybe one day he will play for Chelsea. I don't know if it's going to be this season or the next, but I feel like one day he can play for Chelsea, and that really says it all. The agent did say that before Telles actually signed for Galatasaray, we made contact with the player and his agent, but at the time we couldn't sign the player because they already agreed a pre-contract agreement with Galatasaray and they wanted to honour that agreement. So I understand that, and it's good that they conduct business in a fair way. I know that I'm being too ambitious thinking about us making a bid in this window, but what if we paid a bit extra? Or what if we could offer Porto a player in return to really sweeten it for them to let them release Alex Telles? As I said in the previous story, Reece James is the only player right now really bringing that creativity in the team. And for Lampard's system to really excel and go to that new level, we need another version of Reece down that left-hand side. And this is where Alex Telles can come into place, because with his left foot, his crossing, his set-piece delivery, his penalties, everything about him from dead ball situations, he brings that perfect quality that you need from the wide area. And with how the fullbacks are constantly left isolated out by themselves, well, Telles will have all the time in the world to put in excellent delivery, hopefully, for an Edison Cavani or a Tammy Abraham. Yeah, I know you guys, I'm definitely gassed with these stories today. And all I'm going to say is, if you want to hear more of my thoughts and opinions on Alex Telles, I did release a video not too long ago discussing 7 alternatives to Ben Chilwell who I personally feel are much better than the player. And these are 7 players I feel we should really give much more attention to than Ben. So if you guys want to hear more of my thoughts and opinions on Alex, well, I suggest that you click on the card above, watch that video straight after the news video. And on that point, you guys, we end things with a final story for today. And that's in regards to Victor Moses and him being close to finalising a move with Inter Milan. Now, news has come out that Inter Milan have agreed a price to sign Victor Moses. What's going to happen is, as is typical with Italian clubs, it's going to be a loan signing at first with an option to buy at 10 million euros at the end of the season. Now, to make way for Victor Moses' arrival, it looks like Inter Milan are letting Lazaro leave, who was their new summer signing, and he's close to signing for Newcastle on loan until the end of the season. All I can say is good luck to Victor. This is a sick move for him. He really excelled under Conte playing in this system. He understands how to play it to a T. He's at a good age, and I feel like he can really have a good time at Inter Milan. I really feel like his performances were unfairly critiqued for no reason at times, and I think that was purely based on Victor Moses not having the most sexiest of names. You know, I would see him make a small mistake and then he would be vilified and people would automatically say that he wasn't good enough and he wasn't of this right level. That wasn't fair. And I also think that Sarri added to the unfairness. For him to automatically just dismiss Victor Moses, with reports that Sarri thought that Victor couldn't defend, which I find absolutely baffling. You know, when Sarri came to their club and just automatically played Moses as a right winger, it told me immediately that he knew nothing of the player and he wasn't really going to give players a fair opportunity to show what they're really about in pre-season. It made absolutely zero sense to me. I remember Victor Moses and that performance he put in against Jordi Alba against Barcelona in the first leg of the Champions League. You know, in that game, Victor Moses single-handedly stopped Alba from doing absolutely anything. Alba that season was by far the best left back in the world. You just couldn't stop him. And for Victor Moses to put in a defensive masterclass like that, well, it just tells you just how good he was. You know, I remember just how solid that right-hand side was with Victor and Aspi behind. It's not going to get as solid as that again for a very long time. And I'm hoping that he gets himself psyched up again to play for a big club with a big name. You know, sometimes I think that when players go to leagues like Turkey, you know, for clubs like Fenerbahce, where the quality and level of the league isn't too high, but you're going to a league where you can still earn a lot of money, I feel like it can maybe reduce the player's quality a bit because the level of competition isn't really pushing the player to reach new heights. You know, when we first signed him, in his first season for us, he got 10 goals. Now, at the time, no one really cared and we really dismissed that because, you know, we really took goals for granted back in the days. Most times, a lot of players were getting 10 plus goals in a season. These days, for the past few seasons, it's been such a far cry from those days. And with Moses, even when he played as a right wing back, you know, his ability to bring in 4 to 5 assists and goals a season, you know, that adds up in the grand schemes of things. But anyway, good luck to Victor. And on that point, you guys, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lions CV. I'll see you guys in a bit.